Sometimes when it comes to adaptations, the people in charge often make some really weird decisions. That's not to say that Peach Boy Riverside is going to be a hot mess, technically, but we'll get into that as I do a review for Peach Boy Riverside. This is my thoughts on it. It ran for 12 episodes in the summer 2021 anime season. So let's jump right into it. For those that have watched the series, don't worry. I'm not going to get a synopsis based on the weird chronological order they decided to go with this series. But it essentially takes place in a world where humans live in the same world as demi-humans, as well as Oni, these beings that like to basically feed off the hatred of human beings and also their flesh, or kill them at least. And it seems like for a long time now, there's been this constant battle between the humans and the Onis, as it always seems kind of one-sided on the sense of obviously Onis are super powerful and they can basically crush a person without even trying. But over time, these Peach Boys have started to appear, which are basically humans with imbued power that they can actually take on the Oni. And the story follows two different perspectives, one being Sari, who is a princess who has decided to leave her kingdom and go out on an adventure to basically learn things of the land, until she eventually decides that it's going to be her goal to essentially make a world where demi-humans and lizardmen and elves and Oni all can live together in peace. On the other hand, we have Makoto, who seems to be driven by revenge. Like, his whole purpose in life is to kill Oni, any Oni that he sees, and that's his driving force, seeking to essentially quench this thirst that he has that seemingly cannot be quenched. So from the perspective of both revenge and for peace, we're getting two sides of a coin of this world that we're kind of expanding. And it technically does make sense as to why these two are the driving force of the story. As you get more into Makoto's history, you do see that driving force for why he wants to have revenge. On the other hand, you do have Sari, who essentially was a sheltered princess that doesn't really see the world for the violence that it is. So thus coming into this world that is full of discrimination obviously is very foreign to her, and thus gives her the reason why, as she meets Frau, who is a demi-human, and Carrot, who is an Oni, she gets that idea that because these people can technically walk together, there shouldn't be any reason why there's discrimination upon the world. And as Sari goes on her journey, obviously she's going to run into issues, because there are a lot of Onis who just seek to destroy all humans. There is humans who will just are born and raised with the mindset that anything outside of human is a threat. And there's no shortage of fuel for this mindset, as we see a lot of cases where, Onis are wiping out entire kingdoms, or you see the tragic past of Makoto and what he's gone through. And even a lot of this perspective from Carrot, who is essentially an Oni who is walking amongst them, trying to understand why these people would be working side by side. So let's get the elephant out of the room right off the bat. I have no clue what these people were on when they decided that they wanted to adapt the story the way they did. Like, somebody took the episode count and randomized it. It makes zero sense why they told the story the way they did. Typically, whenever a show has kind of time jumps and returns, it makes sense why they do that. There's some sort of reasoning behind it based on, you need to have this context, so it's a good thing to kind of show this first, or a different perspective from a different time span. Makes sense. This show makes zero sense why it was pieced the way it was. You'll finish one episode and immediately the next episode, it jumps forward and suddenly this character's talking to these characters, and you don't know why they're talking to each other. There's no reason why they should be talking to each other. And it doesn't take until 5 episodes later before you finally get the story of why they're talking to each other. It was aggravating. I was a little bit late in getting back to this show, and I kind of wish that I have watched a chronological order, but then I wouldn't have the perspective that I have, that made zero sense why they did it. I just assumed they knew what they were doing, and there was a positive reason of why they did it. There is no positive reason. If you go to watch this show, based on my review or somebody else, look for a actual episode chronological watch, because it does feel like this show was made in its proper order. It's just almost as if they randomized which one they were going to air that day. To give you an idea, I looked it up, and I think I pretty much confirmed that this is pretty much it. This is the chronological storytelling route, not the broadcast. Episode 4, 1, 2, 7, 11, 12, 5, 6, 3, 8, 10, 9. That's the actual order that you should be watching the episodes. That is so randomized, I cannot make sense of it. And like I said, I don't see any storytelling reason for it to have been that random. It makes zero sense, and it's frustrating. But now that that's out of the way, let's put that elephant off to the side. He's been handled. Anybody in the future now knows that they can watch this order and it will be proper. But anyways, other than that, I did like this show. And it's odd because my struggles with the show, I think, are really primarily because of the episode randomness. Because there was certain characters that I didn't really understand why they were in the mix. But as you kind of get more into the stories they're technically skipping and coming back to, you get a perspective of what drives them. You get a perspective of their conflicts. Whereas, again, you have to wait until later before you get the story that was back here that explains the inner struggle this character faces. Namely, Carrot. What is she struggling with? How is she getting over her issues with walking alongside of a human? Does she just want to die because she no longer has her horn? Those aspects are always interconflicting with the character, and seeing that play out is really interesting. Obviously, a lot of the driving force of the storytelling is around discrimination and getting over that discrimination, because it's obviously Sari's main driving focus. But what's great is it doesn't really rely on that as being some oblivious goal that cannot be achieved, and the girl just keeps pushing until it's achieved. It really does paint a picture that that's something that just won't work here. But she's still going to try anyways. And I think that aspect of still acknowledging that she's doing something that most people would see as stupid and showing it blowing up in her face on a regular basis is really refreshing. It isn't trying to go the route of everything's hunky-dory because she said that she wants to do this and everybody sees her driving force and suddenly everything's happy. It's a brutal world and nothing gets really right. And I think that's something that I really did like about this show. Now, granted, yes, I do want a happy ending, but to make it realistic within the confines of this world, it makes sense. And it helps because we do get that contrasting perspective between Mikoto and Sari, whereas Mikoto, again, is driven by that revenge and just seeking out to kill everybody in front of him. But even he has a moment where he does have this conflict because this dog that's always kind of traveling with him is almost like his conscience and trying to keep him in check as he goes around and pretty much senselessly kills any Oni he sees. Yes, I've skipped it long enough, but obviously Frau is the gem of this show. Frau is so pure, and Frau is amazing. I really am curious to learn more about Frau, and I think Frau is probably the driving force that I would want more adaptation of the series. I think Frau is fantastic, and definitely of every character in the show has the most mystique about just having this element of this hidden power, this obvious connection to somebody of a higher being, is definitely that last remaining thing that I think is still yet to be really kind of unraveled. Obviously, the idea of the Oni, the idea of the peace group, the ones that want that removal of discrimination is definitely there as well, obviously. But I definitely am more interested to see what they do with Frau going forward. I think the other thing that I enjoy about the series is not really the sum of what it seems like from the very get-go. All the different perspectives that you get kind of evolve the world itself. Where at first it seems like the Oni are just really out to kill all humans, you start to learn about different factions within the Oni and the fact that some of them have the mind of their own and seeking their own gain. And obviously this fact holds true for the other races as well. I just think we're going to need a little bit more time to really kind of dive into that. So yeah, my overall thoughts, I really did enjoy this show. Despite the fact that the episode mix match is absolutely horrendous. I think it does also kind of hide the fact that this is a continuation, and it does technically need more content to really get to a solid point in the story. But I think it was a really solid first season, even though it was really poorly presented. With that said, yes, this doesn't really have any solid conclusions to it. There was a lot of character points where the characters do get to a realization and get to these focal points in their lives, but at the same time, there really is no kind of big bad they really get to, and no real heavy conclusions they're getting to the story. So it is something that's going to probably either need another season or for you to get into the source material to get some really solid conclusions. So I do really hope this does get a second season. It really does deserve it. Like I said, I'm pretty interested in a lot of the characters. I like a lot of the storytelling they're doing. It just needs more. I also like that this show doesn't really do what you would typically see a main protagonist do when they seek out to accomplish their goals. Sari gets to a conclusion that if she wants to get what she wants, it needs force, which is really interesting to go by based on what she's going for, which is peace. Additionally, we can also pretty much acknowledge the fact that despite this being medieval times and everybody has outfits that kind of fit the time period, Sari's outfit's not really matching the world itself. With leather jeans and just an outfit that doesn't really match the time at all. With that said, that's my thoughts on Peach Boy Riverside. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the series, or if you're going to check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. And support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And y'all take care.